Welcome back, everyone. I'm T,
And I'm Nessa.
and together we are the Casual Fangirls. Of course, we're back to chat about the latest episode of HBO's House of the Dragon. Speaking of dragons, Nessa, if you could choose the way you would die, would you choose death by fire?
Not particularly, although it looked honorable in this episode.
If it were me, I think I would choose like just in my sleep, just very peaceful, don't want to know what it's about. But I wouldn't choose death by fire neither. But there are some people who would, and we're about to talk about it. Before we dive into this week's episode entitled The Princess and the Queen, Nessa, what did you think about this episode?
I was like, time does not heal all wounds because there are still old grudges and new grudges that are forming. We have a 10-year time jump. And I'm just like, wow, you still feel like this? Wow, we're not friends anymore. It was a lot of that. But also for me, it was just, I felt like part of me was like missing out because I was like, wait, but what happened in between this time that we're here now, you know? And so I missed having some of that time, and I wish we had some of that. But all in all, I liked the episode. It's always greatly acted. It was awesome, but I felt like I was missing quite a bit of information. How about you? How would you describe the episode?
It was so dramatic. And that's actually saying something, this being us being back in Westeros, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. It's a dramatic series, literally defining drama. But there's something about this season. I don't remember the Game of Thrones seasons having every single episode where there's a scene or a moment that has me like, what? Like, did I just see that? In this episode, I feel like is when I finally realized that, oh, this is a lot of drama. And everything that's happening is all internal family drama, which is very different from what we saw in Game of Thrones. And I'm just like, by the end of the episode, I was like, oh my gosh, that was so dramatic.
It's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. And I agree. It feels like it's so much more, I think, because we had that time jump where we didn't get any of that information. So it's my brain trying to piece together all the tiny little detailed stories that might have happened over the last 10 years in order to lead to the dramatic scenes that we're seeing now. So yeah, just overall very, very, very dramatic.
And I mean, because of the time jumps, it's like they probably feel like we've got to jam pack everything. So it feels like, dang, the stakes are always high. Whereas like Game of Thrones, we had some quieter episodes where we could just like chill in the, the smaller moments. But here we are full speed ahead, y'all.
Full speed ahead. But before we dive full speed ahead into the episode, Nessa, why don't you give everyone a spoiler warning?
Oh, that was a nice segue. I love that. So yes, here is our spoiler warning, guys. You know what time we on. You know what we do. So we are going to be talking about episode 6 of House of the Dragon, but we are still going to reference Game of Thrones. We might bring some things in from the books and stuff, things that we heard in the multiverse. But if you guys are more than welcome to stay if you have not seen the episode or any episodes of Game of Thrones. But just know that we are going to be talking about specific plot points and diving deep into the story. So, hang around with us, or you can go watch the episode and come on back and join our conversation. And so I'm going to have T kick us off.
Let's dive into it. So the episode opens 10 years later, and we have new actors. Things have changed a little, not too much. We're about to get into it. We see Rhaenyra in the middle of birthing her third child when she's summoned by Queen Alicent immediately after pushing to bring the baby to her. We realize Alicent is checking for the baby's hair. When Laenor and Rhaenyra return to her quarters, her older sons, Jacaerys and Lucerys, I'm going to say?
Jacaerys.
Jacaerys and
Lucerys and Lucerys.
Sorry, Jacaerys and Lucerys?
Yeah, but you can call them, I think they're going by Jace and Luke in the show.
Yeah, which is why Lucerys is messing me up. Jace and Luke are there with a dragon egg for the new baby, escorted by Harwin Strong, the Lord Commander of the City Watch and first son of the Hand of the King, Lionel Strong. And he's particularly interested in holding baby Joffrey. So let's pause here and just get ourselves oriented to to us being 10 years later. So first of all, we have new actors. How do we feel about that?
I'm fine with the actors. I think they're doing an amazing job. I think you can see the previous actors' portrayals in the new portrayals that we're getting. Um, but I'm not gonna lie, like I really do wish we had more time with the younger actors. I wish we could have stayed with them at least for a full season. But I will say that for what they're doing a great job in terms of doing the time jump for sure.
So I have a slightly different opinion, and
Yeah.
I don't want to put this on the actors, the actresses and actors who are coming in. I think again with that time jump, there's something about the way that Allison and Rhaenyra is being played that feels disconnected from the two people we just left in the previous episode. And again, I just think that people age over time and they grow
Yeah.
and they, their personalities change a little bit, but I'm having a hard time in my head distinguishing that from it being the actor choosing to go a slightly different direction. If that makes like I can't tell if it's the actor that's acting a little bit differently to me or if it's just like the time jump and people change over time. So I'm not mad at it. It's just going to take me, I think, some time to work that out.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. Like doing this in the middle of the season is a bit tough because it's like, dang, I was just with the young ones. But whereas like, okay, we ended this season, we're starting a new season, we see it as a new chapter, we might just feel differently totally about it. But there is something about missing all the stuff that happens in the time in between to make you be like, oh, I see why Alicent grew to be this, or I see why Rhaenyra grew to be that, and we're missing some of that.
Yeah, I'm actually, this is a quick sidebar. I started The Crown recently for obvious reasons. And after season 3 in The Crown, they switch out all the actors.
Yeah.
And when you're binge watching it and you may be intoxicated, it'll throw you off like crazy. I was just like, whoa, what is this the same show? And quite honestly, I'm not even interested in it anymore. Like I've grown to love like watching Matt Smith, honestly. That's honestly why I started watching it, because I was watching him as Damon in this. And I was like, oh, what else is he in? And I started watching that. He was fantastic, but I don't want to see this new guy playing him. And so I say all that to say that I can understand that I have some biases towards it.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
And we see 10 years later, Viserys. Bam, 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 still alive and kicking, y'all.
Makes no sense.
So I really, bro, at least I thought he would be a little bit more broken down. I thought he would.
We didn't see him cough to the end of the episode.
Yeah. I don't get it.
He fainted twice in the last episode.
Right. So what happened in the time in between that we're now stable? Like, did he go from the leeches to the herbs finally? Like,
That's
is he on a plant-based diet? I don't understand. Like,
that's a great question. He went vegan? I don't know.
Because I'm not, honestly, I'm not sure how he's making it. That arm was looking crazy in the previous episode.
And he still got both arms, right? We saw both.
I believe he has most of that other arm. I don't know how much of it is left.
That's a good point. Well, he held the baby, so he has to have 2 arms.
Oh, yeah.
Fair enough. This is my deductive reasoning, like kicking in now, because I wasn't paying attention.
It was wild.
It is wild that he's still alive and he's still like moving around. I mean, he needs some assistance. He's pretty old. That makes sense. But like, the fact that he's still alive after they went through all of that to make us know that he was like on death's doorstep is kind of crazy to me.
Wow.
Anyways,
yeah.
We also get in the first couple of scenes Lord Commander of the City Watch, not Night's Watch. I'm so used to like Jorah Mormont. Anyways, Harwin Strong is there like helping out with the kids, just like being a good Lord Commander of the City Watch, escorting the future king to pick out an egg for his baby brother.
Not suspicious at all.
Listen, as soon as I saw them kids, I was like, something's not right here. No, something's not right here. And then when we get to him popping up and being all chummy, like, oh, can I be introduced to Joffrey? It's just like, come on, y'all are being wild, reckless. You're gonna hear me say that a lot during this episode. There's a lot of that going around.
They really just they don't care. They don't care. And I think that was the wildest part to me, is just like, y'all don't see this as being suspicious. Like, you have a whole little mini army to command, sir. Why are you in this lady's quarters here to meet her new child? Like,
because he went to command his mini army that's in her quarters that look just like him.
Good one. Yeah. So, and it's just like, dang, Rhaenyra, like, you couldn't have been safer. Like,
we're gonna get to this at the end of the episode when she starts making decisions, and my frustration about this is gonna come out then, so we can save it there. But I totally and completely agree.
Yeah, like, come on, the like Allison said, it's like, to have one is a mistake. Three, you just spitting in people's faces now and telling them it's raining.
It's like, are you actually trying? Are you actually trying is the question here.
It's wild. But I also, really quick, I know this is a little bit of an aside, but really quick, just to comment on like those first scenes when we do meet them and introduce them. I should have said this in the beginning when we were talking about the time jump. But I thought that, so the way it's filmed is like it's one continuous long shot, right? We don't get like a lot of cuts. It looks like the camera's just following them for the whole sequence continuously, which I think did justice to the time jump, because it allowed you to see some of those little nuances and how Laenor and Rhaenyra kind of relate to each other / don't relate to each other. And so like when he's helping her from her giving birth, first of all, those birthing sounds will haunt my nightmares forever. For those who don't know, I've never had a child. It was a lot. I'm not gonna lie. And so to watch her from giving birth to being like, man, I'm gonna carry this baby to her myself, like, and then Laenor being like, I hope it wasn't terribly painful. Like, sir, what? I don't.
This actually, like, it was actually it made me smile a little bit. I have a couple of my close friends are males who date other males, like Laenor does in the show. Mm-hmm. And growing up with them, I used to get questions like, so does your period really hurt that bad? And it's like, bruh. Like, so it's like, if you don't have a uterus, or you don't date someone who has a uterus, then you don't have a lot of exposure to how uteruses, whatever, can affect you. And so when Laenor was just like, I got like stabbed in the shoulder once, and she's just like, are you kidding me?
What a pity. Oh my gosh. So it was wild. But we did see in these scenes how supportive Laenor is being with his kids and is playing the role to a certain extent. Although I feel like, I don't think he's hiding his homosexual activities in court that well. Like,
like she's not hiding her extramarital activities either.
That's the thing that's blowing mine, is like, y'all are not even trying to be secretive about any of
this. That's the blood of the dragon, and that's like, my family is my family. What they gonna do? We're Valerians and Targaryens. It's wild. And I think we are having such a reaction to it because we saw that kicked off the entire story of Game of Thrones. Joffrey being a bastard, being illegitimate. That kicked off the War of Five Kings, and here Rhaenyra is just like, whatever, I got 3 kids, and so what? They're Targaryens. Fight
3
me.
brown-haired babies, boy. I was like, Jesus Christ.
The other thing I wanted to call out really quickly is that we're 10 years later, and Alicent is still wearing green.
That Hightower green, boy.
She's still out for blood. Yep.
She's not playing.
She's not playing, and she won't let it go, which is odd. We'll talk about that in a hot second. Yeah. So, getting back to the show. So we cut to the dragon pits where the children, there's like kids now, which is blowing my mind too, are learning how to train a dragon. Ha 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 ha. Yeah. We learn We learn that Aegon, Alicent's oldest, who we know, well, we've seen before, and both of Rhaenyra's oldest sons have dragons, and they tease Alicent's second son, Aemond, for not having one. He complains to his mom, who complains to the king to get his grandsons together, and Viserys dismisses it. Boys will be boys, right? Without saying it outright, she pushes that Rhaenyra's children are illegitimate. With Mama and Daddy both being platinum blondes and all of Rhaenyra's children being striking brunettes, people are beginning to talk. Most of all, Alicent. Viserys refuses to indulge in this conversation, but Lord Cole, who is now Alicent's sworn protector, which I called in the last episode, supports Alicent in her FBI investigation. We then get a brief scene where Aegon is masturbating on the windowsill until his mom walks in on him. She reprimands him for teasing his brother and reminds him that his life is on the line if Rhaenyra comes to power. He doesn't want the throne, but doesn't quite understand the danger he's in. She reinforces that he needs to get with the program because one day he will be king. Yeah. So let's pause there. And there's a couple of things that we see in these shots. I want to start with the fact that Aegon was standing in the window masturbating. And
that's where we're starting.
Yes, we're just gonna jump right there. Let's just jump right there real quick and then we'll circle back.
Yes.
You see him in the window, what's the first thing you think?
Tommen.
And then your brain is like, oh no, he's naked. He's not about like what's happening. He's not jumping.
Yeah.
Like...
I was just like, wow, this is a lot. This is how we're meeting you. I
was like, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. Can you be any more dramatic? Like I literally feel like they're now just like, what can we make people go like, oh snap, why'd they do that? Like they're just throwing things now.
Yeah, basically. Why not?
I mean, I guess it tells us that he's just a regular 13, 14-year-old boy who is into himself and doing those. He has no interest in becoming king, right? So I guess it kind of situates that for us, but I had to start there because they threw that at me, so I wanted to throw it at.
Yeah, and I mean, even in the conversation that he has with Alicent afterwards, he's just like, I won't challenge them. And she's like, you are the challenge. Like, we've never seen, and again, this is maybe where the time jump has kind of failed us, but like we've never seen Alicent get out of character like that before, right? And so to see her get that worked up and to get that passionate, that emotional, it was just like, oh wow, okay. But she's essentially giving the same speech that Otto tried to give to her, which made me be like, so wait, did you not take your dad's advice and raise him like he's going to be king in the first place?
Thank you. What have you been doing for the past 10 years if he doesn't have it in his brain that is what his future is?
Right.
What have you been doing?
Don't be mad at him for living his life. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, living his life.
Talking about, well, you think they're your friends now, but they gonna try and kill you. Like, Mom, you should have been saying that since I was 4. Like,
you knew that since the first one was born. Since Jack, what's his name?
Jace.
I'm awful. Jace. I am so gonna be that like black auntie that's just like, excuse me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh y'all, come on. Like, I'm just awful with names.
Lord.
The other thing I thought about too, really quickly before we move on, is do you remember how Tyrion very distinctly wanted to piss off the top of the wall?
Oh yes.
That's what that made me think about. Like once I like got over the shock of it all, I was like, oh, this is it's a power trip for him.
Yeah.
To stand in the window and do that.
100%.
Anyways, let's circle back a little bit. We also meet, not in the same scene, thankfully. We meet grown up Helena. Yes. And she's an interesting kid. Tessa, how would you describe her?
Very eccentric. I don't know. She seems very much into this bug, this centipede that she's playing with. But like when I was watching the scene, so in the same scene, Aemond is running to Alicent to be like, oh my God, they played tricks on me. Nah. Right? But like, as they're cutting the dialogue, I'm like, does this mean something? Because Aemond is like, they said they found a dragon for me. And then she says, the last ring of the centipede has no legs at all. And then he was like, and then Aemon says, but it was a pig. And Alicent tells him, you will have a dragon one day. And then she says, you'll have to, Helena says you'll have to close an eye. So I'm just like, is Aemon going to lose an eye? Like, what does this mean? Like, what is happening? And we know that, like, the Targaryens believe in, like, dreamers and prophecy and stuff like that. So I just didn't feel like they put that in there by accident. I don't think it's a throwaway line. I think it's going to come back to mean something. I don't know if Aemon's going to lose an eye, or I don't know what this whole thing about the last ring doesn't have legs. What is happening? But I'm curious to see what's going to go on. What were your impressions of her?
So I thought she was an oddball. She reminded me of the cousin that Jaime and Tyrion were talking about way back in season 4, right before Tyrion's planned execution. Spoiler. And their cousin used to play with the Beatles and just like be banging on the Beatles and just like be in their own world. So, yeah. So it reminded me of that. I love your theory about this being actually like prophetic and her being a dreamer. I think that makes a lot of sense. And so if that's the case, we're calling it here that prophecy was made by Helena. Yeah. And something about that conversation is alluding to what's going to happen into the future. So quick speculation warning. I'm about to speculate.
Go for it.
I think the last ring has no legs is maybe just a comment on Aemon since he's the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because we know Aegon and Helena existed before the 10 years, so he's younger than 10 years.
Yeah.
And when she said, you're going to have to close an eye, I wonder if that means that he's going to have to kill someone with a dragon in order to get a dragon.
Interesting.
That's my guess.
Interesting. Let's see. I'm here for it. I'm here for all the speculation.
I like it. I like it a lot.
I'm excited.
I like it. And then, I mean, when we get to the scenes for the next episode, there's a spoiler. There's a dragon up for grabs. So we're going to talk about it.
There is a dragon.
We're going to talk about it. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up, too, with like, so we meet all of Alicent's children. Her oldest son is a 13-year-old, like, self-centered boy. Her daughter's a little weird. And her second son is super sensitive and just, like, is trying to fit in. And Viserys just seems like super like ignorant to all of it. He just like all of the complaints about his grandson's teasing, Alicent coming at him with the question of Rhaenyra's children's parentage. He's just like, can you stop, please? I want to play with my Lego set.
He does want to play with his Lego sets, but I will give Viserys this. He was like, well, how many times is Aemon going to keep falling for this? Because this is not the first time. So you know what? I'm on Viserys' team for that one, for sure. But yeah, he just want to live out his old age and die in peace, honestly, is what it looks like at this point.
I mean, he's one of those dudes that got 2 families where he had one like when he was younger and then like they grew up and then he started another family. Now he's like super old and has grandkids with kids at the same time. It happens to a lot of people. And he's just not trying to hear it. And I mean, he made a good point. He was like, the accusation that you're getting at, like, think of the consequences of that. And even Lord Larys brings it up later. Like, he has to ignore it because if he acknowledges it, he either has to banish and exile his heir, which could completely make the Targaryen house look stupid, or kill her, basically. Which I'm sure he could probably try to make look an accident if he really wanted to, but like, why go through all that? He loves her too much, right? So,
and you see that tenderness too when she delivers Joffrey, and like he's like, "How was it?" And she was like, "I think I called the midwife a C-word," and then they like kiss and they embrace, and I was like, "Oh, we're good here, okay."
Yeah, I mean, she did what she was told. She married Laenor and had babies, secured her spot. She had 3 boys.
She has somebody's babies.
She has somebody's babies, and then named her baby after the dude that her ex side piece killed because he was talking about her. We didn't talk about that.
I mean, I feel like in a sense she had to give that to him.
She did
because, and I mean, we could kind of touch on this real quick. Kristen Cole is still here, and I don't understand that. Yeah, I don't understand how he's still here. You beat the best friend and secret lover, not so secret lover of the king consort to be in the middle of a wedding feast or pre-wedding feast in front of all of the court, and you get to stay.
The queen can do what she wants.
There's no dishonorable charge, like discharge or something like that. Like
I mean, that's what they did with Harwin. Later on, we'll talk about it. But the queen says, "No, I want him by my side." What they gonna do? Be like, "No."
I see. This is where I needed that 10-year time jump to explain how this is possible. Because I feel like either way, because I don't get it.
What's the explanation here that she takes Kristen from guarding Rhaenyra? There has to be a story there that they gave people, right? In order to not tell everyone the real reason.
I want that. I need that information.
I do too.
To me, it makes no logical sense why he would.
I do too. Kristen is still so salty. So salty.
Laurie's.
It's so salty.
So bad.
Okay, so it's like in the previous episode, you and I talked a little bit about like why does Alicent care so much? Like why is she so? Is this just like purity standards? Is it like does she feel personally attacked or offended? It was kind of confusing at this point, though. 10 years later, Alicent, when she got 3 kids of her own, and she sees that the next heir to the throne is probably a bastard. Oh, I'd be livid. I would be just as mad as Alicent if I were her at this point in time.
Yeah, I think she has reason at this point to be upset. It's Kristen who I'm like, you still this mad later on? Like that's the part to me where I'm just like, sir, you got to let this go. Why are we still in this place in life? You need to heal and move on.
Maybe Rhaenyra got it like that. She got that Erykah Badu because she got 2 people out here risking their whole livelihoods to lay with her.
She's just out here banging knights.
Harwin Strong had 3 babies with her. 3.
That's crazy.
Knowing that they were going to come out brown-haired.
Crazy.
That's wild.
Well,
anyway.
they're probably hoping for the best because you could, one could argue that, well, Viserys and Alicent's kids could have came out brown haired, but at the same time, when you have platinum and platinum, why would you bring brown into the mix like that?
The math not mathin'.
It's not, and you that's a harder thing to fight against. I was just like,
the math is not math because even Marjorie Tyrell, my queen, one of my queens, when she was set to marry Renly, who obviously was not into women, she was like, I can get my brother in here so we can get this going, but you need to put a baby in me, not somebody else. You.
Right.
So yeah, it's just so reckless, but we still have. Go ahead.
So do you think that Laenor and Rhaenyra have never coupled?
I'm inclined to think so. I don't think they ever consummated their marriage.
That's even more reckless.
It is more reckless. And I think that we are primed to assume that because we already saw that Daemon never consummated his marriage to the lady up in the Vale, whose name I can't remember.
Rhea.
Sure.
Rhea Royce.
So I don't think they ever because it's like if they actually consummated their marriage, there's very little excuse as to why they don't have a legitimate child.
At least somewhere in there, right?
At least somewhere in the mix. Reckless.
Aside from his little swimmers may not work, but again, in the 10 years, like, could we at least have gotten like a post-wedding scene, like?
He was mourning his boyfriend. He's not going to have sex with her that night.
I know, but I guess. I want to know if they banged. Did he try? I want to know if he tried.
I'm telling you that we're just going to have to accept that this is, just like how we speculate on Captain America and the MCU, like and his sexual prowess, whether or not that exists or not.
I guess.
All right.
Fine, fair.
So let's keep it pushing. So Viserys and Lionel Strong, his hand, are watching sports. Yes. They're watching the young princess learn to spar in the yard. Kristen Cole is giving Aegon and Aemon lots of attention and instruction, and Harwin isn't having it. You are not about to ignore his babies like that. He calls Kristen out on ignoring them, and it escalates to a fight when Kristen calls Harwin out on being too involved, as if he were their father. This causes Harwin to whoop Kristen's ass, which is just what Kristen wanted, because it causes a spectacle and like all of that. Rhaenyra overhears Lord Strong confronting Harwin about the rumors. Laenor shows up drunk and suggests he wants to join the impending fight against the Triarchy, but Rhaenyra confronts him on not taking their situation seriously. So let's pause there. So the first thing, so let's go back to like the yard scene. A couple of things stood out to me. One, Game of Thrones, I'm starting to understand, loves showing us sibling dynamics through this like sparring, like in the yard piece. In the first episode of Game of Thrones, we meet all the children when they're in the yard, like shooting arrows. When we get flashbacks to Ned and his brothers, they're in the yard sparring. When we see Jon like coming into himself as a man, he's teaching other boys how to spar. So as soon as I saw them doing it, I was like, all right, Tamara, focus. What are you trying to learn here?
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to call out too was like Kristen. So Harwin coming at Kristen, I legit thought that no one was going to pull him off and Kristen was about to die. Like he killed the other dude. Like he killed Joffrey.
I didn't think it was gonna go that far, because then just from a show running perspective, I just would have been like, that's too repetitive. So I didn't really think it was gonna go that far, but at the same time, Harwin, get control of yourself. Like, you are in public. First of all, once again, commander of the City Watch, why are you watching these little boys spar? Like, this is not part of your job description. Why are you here? Already some, looking like, suspicious.
Asian pie somewhere, like in Foggy Bottom. Did I make that up? Foggy Bottom?
You did. It's Flea Bottom.
Ooh, what's Foggy Bottom?
I have no idea.
Is that from SpongeBob?
That's Bikini Bottom. I have no idea. But
that's a neighborhood in Washington, D.C. I'm bugging. Good, keep going. I knew it because I go back to DC for work, and I was like, wait, I know Foggy Bottom is a thing. Flea Bottom. You're right. Keep going.
Out of control. He has thousands of soldiers that he should be commanding at this point in time. He should be out here looking for crime. Say what you will about Daemon, but my boy Daemon was out here in the streets running the City Watch, okay? Harwin is over here watching little kids fight. So that in of itself, it was like, once again, come on, what's going on here? But yeah, so I mean, I didn't think he was gonna kill him, but at the same time, I was like, why would you let this man get the best of you? You know what he was trying to do.
Jamie would never. Jamie said, I mean, in front of everybody like that, he would have played it as if he was stepping up for his like nephews and nieces because he was family. But I also feel like Jamie's not dumb enough. That's the difference. Yeah, he's close enough where he could do it where it's not going to look that weird.
That's the difference. Because that's my twin sister and her children. That's the difference. Harwin has no relation to these.
Relation.
It's not supposed to have any relation to these people. But yeah. So
yeah. I mean, he didn't even try to spin it as like, that's the future king. How dare you, like, disrespect him or whatever. Like, try to play it up, him being the hand son and being so loyal to the crown that, like, he didn't even play it that way. He was just like, you're not about to disrespect my sons like that. Anyways, it was giving me very much strong, like, these are my children. I'll do anything for my children. Like, strong Cersei vibes almost. Like, reckless enough when it comes to your kids that you're willing to do anything. Yeah. And clearly we'll see where that gets him.
But also Jace, very feisty. That boy, because mind you, Aemon is like got a few years on him and quite a bit of height too. But my man stood for himself. He was like, "You're not about to just knock me around. I got a few moves of my own." I was like, "Okay, Jace."
And he's not stupid, and we'll get to that in a second too. That's a smart little boy. Yeah. The other thing about this stretch when Laenor and Rhaenyra are talking and Laenor's drunk. And she's just like, you have a duty here. And he's like, I've played my part. I should be able to go out and have some fun. And she's like, you've been having fun, first of all. Second of all, there's stuff happening here, like we need to sit here and deal with it. And I thought that this quote was interesting from him being like from the family that owns the sea, controls the sea. The wise sailor flees the storm as it gathers.
Yeah.
When he said it, I was just like, that feels so anti Targaryen and Blood of the Dragon that it felt so foreign to me to hear that being said in this show.
Yeah. Well, it's very different from what Corlys says, right? Which is you either sail around the storm or through the storm, but you don't wait for the storm to come to you. And he's just like, nah, when you see the storm gathering, you got to dip, right? So very, very different. And then later on, Rhaenyra actually ends up using that up, against him as well. So, it was interesting, but it seems to fit Laenor's personality at this
vibe.
point.
Yeah,
which is also interesting because he's so gung-ho and ready to go fight, but it's just like, I don't know, maybe
he's a knight of summer.
Yeah, and I just don't think he's built for all this palace intrigue. He's not built for the politicking. He wants no parts of it whatsoever.
No, which makes him a pretty good king consort, honestly.
True.
Yeah. Fair. So let's go across the narrow sea to Pentos, where Day Day and Lele. I love this. Daemon and Laena, Day Day and Lele.
Daddy Day Day.
Daddy Day Day. Uncle Day Day and Auntie Lele are happily riding their dragons. What a cute scene. What a cute scene watching them two together.
I loved it.
Oh my God, Daemon is like happy. Like, this is weird. They have 2 girls together and are expecting their 3rd child. The oldest of which I believe is a dragon rider. I believe it's the oldest. One of them is dragon rider. We need to fact check that. Over in Pentos, the Prince of Pentos offers for them to stay in Pentos with lands and titles in exchange for protection against the Triarchy, who apparently is this like villain army that we're never going to actually get to see. Whatever. Laena wants to go home, back to King's Landing, back to Westeros, but Daemon is considering staying. And then later on, we see that Laena is consoling her daughter, who doesn't have a dragon, and makes another appeal to Daemon to go back to King's Landing. So we get a snippet into what Daemon's been up to over the past 10 years. He's married. It looks like, I don't want to say happily, but at least functionally married. Like, his marriage looks like it's going better than Viserys and Alicent or Rhaenyra and Laenor, in my opinion.
He seems content with his match. Like
perfectly content.
Yeah.
There's 2 girls. One of them's a dragon rider. They look
Bela.
like their mother. Little black girls with
the
blonde dreads.
Yeah. So Bela has a dragon, and Rhaena does not. But she's over there cooking her little dragon egg, trying to get it to hatch. And then we finally get to see Laena on her dragon, because in the previous episode, it's not mentioned to us that she does have a dragon, and I guess we're led to believe that she doesn't have a dragon at the time, because the dragon that she mentions in the previous episode is actually the one that she's riding now. Vhagar, the biggest, oldest dragon in the world currently, formerly rode by Visenya, Aegon's sister, Aegon the Conqueror's sister. So,
who was riding him all this time? Do you know?
He was out there floating around for a while. I'm not sure if there was someone directly before him, but remember...
I didn't realize that was the same dragon. Look at me learning stuff.
Yeah, Laena was like, oh, they've heard songs, they've heard Vhagar's songs in Old Spice Town or whatever. So clearly, like, Vhagar's somewhere out there and around. So I don't know what's the time jump between his last rider and Laena, but she's been out there flying around for a while.
So Laena just up and just was able to tame the dragon of like the original
10-year time jump. Show me how this, because she says she gets Vhagar at 15,
which is how old she was, I want to say, when we last saw her.
That's gotta be pretty badass. How do you bag Vhagar?
Basically, You see the shock on me. I'm just like, wait a minute. That's a big deal. That dragon was huge.
Yes.
I had no idea they're like that threw me for a loop. Like seeing her on her dragon, I was like, Danny's dragon Drogon is not touching Vhagar.
No.
At all.
Not even close. Not even close. So I wish, I mean, the show is called House of the Dragon. Like, I wish, and we get a little glimpse of like Jason and Vermax and his dragon and like how they're trying to train him to like, you know, work with the dragon and stuff. But I wish we were seeing a little bit more of these pairings with the dragons versus, oh, who's that in the sky? Oh, it's Laenor on his. Oh, okay. He's got a dragon. Didn't know that. Cool. You know, oh, Lena's got one, you know, so I wish they would show us that a little bit more.
Agree. I definitely agree. The other thing that you just said something that reminded me when Jace was trying to train his dragon. I'm going to use that phrase whenever I can.
Go for it.
When he's trying to train his dragon, the dragon trainer is speaking another language. Was that High Valyrian and Jace just doesn't speak it? Because if not, I feel like that says something because Targaryens speak High Valyrian.
I feel like it has to be High Valyrian because from what we've seen from the previous dragon keepers, they all speak High Valyrian and they train their dragons in High Valyrian. So I feel like that's what it was. But that's an interesting call out that they possibly do not speak the language, or maybe they just don't speak it well enough.
I don't know, but there was someone translating for him, so I found that very like odd.
Damon's definitely teaching Bela though how to speak High Valyrian.
Yes, we see that.
She's learning.
We see that, but we don't. I don't think they are. And what's also like baffled me a little bit too was like, how did Dany learn High Valyrian? I always assumed she just knew it innately. I never like put too much thought into it, but like now I'm sitting here and like, who taught her High Valyrian? She's like, it's my mother tongue. I always, you know, like I just know it, but I don't think
her brother was that much older that
he was 5 years older. Exactly.
That he could have taught her.
Right. No, unless Illyrio like purposely got them tutors maybe when they were kids, and now we're getting off on a tangent. Totally.
Yeah, we told y'all we might talk about Game of Thrones, and here we are. But yeah, I think that's the best explanation is that they probably got some sort of a tutor. Somebody taught them. Yeah.
Okay, so back to Daemon. As Nessa just said, Daemon is out here being a fairly good daddy to at least one of his kids. The one who has a dragon. Clearly, Daemon is playing favorites here, teaching her High Valyrian, asking for a kiss before she goes to bed and all that. Super sweet until we get to Rhaena, right? These names.
Yeah.
Rhaena, who's just like really sad in her room by herself because daddy won't pay her any attention. That's really sad.
It really is. It's unfortunate. And she's so trying to bake that egg so badly. And I was like,
trying to boil that egg and everything. Yep. The other thing that stood out to me about these couple of scenes with Daemon and Lele is that when Lele gets a letter from her brother announcing that Joffrey's been born, what does Daemon say instantly?
What did he say?
He was like, does this child also strike a resemblance with the Lord of the City Watch?
Yes, he does say that.
And I was like, everybody knows.
Everybody knows.
Everybody knows. So reckless.
Everybody knows.
Insane.
And also, I think important to mention too, like the Triarchy, we heard about them before, you know, in the first few episodes and stuff like that. But now they are teaming up with Dorne. And so that's posing an even greater threat. And Laena, so many names. Laena is trying to get up out of there. She wants to go back to Driftmark. She wants to be a dragon rider, live her life, do all these things. She doesn't want to live and die, as she says, like a fat lord and all those kinds of stuff. And it's kind of funny that like Damon's like, I'm trying to retire though. I just want to hang out in Pentos. They want to give us a castle. Like, why do you want to go back to Driftmark? Nothing's there.
It's like, we have a good thing going down here in Florida. Why you want to go back to New York? It's
So
quiet down here.
yeah, I found that dynamic between them interesting, but I also appreciate that there's still this level of respect and somewhat affection for, each other. Like he doesn't treat her like trash. I don't think he's not a doting husband by any means necessary, but
he had sex with her and was able to put a baby in her, so that's something.
That is that really is. So yeah, we know the soldiers are marching. So yeah, so he was at least able to do that much. At least someone fulfilled their duty out here.
And surprisingly, it was Damon.
Oh,
it was Damon. Yeah, it was him. Anyways.
Yes, moving on.
Moving on. So we have a couple more scenes left. So we cut back to King's Landing and we see that both the princess and the queen have seats at the council and the ladies go at it. They hold opposing views on most subjects and they are not afraid to tell each other that they think differently. Rhaenyra calls out the elephant in the room and tries to make amends with the queen by offering her firstborn, Jace, to Helena, Alicent's daughter, so they can join the houses forever while adding the opportunity for Aemon to get a dragon egg to sweeten the deal. Viserys is like over the moon with this proposal, by the way. Rhaenyra's moment is cut short, though, when she is embarrassed by her leaking bosom. Her boobies are leaking because she just had a baby. Yeah. After they leave the council meeting, Alicent lets it be known to the king that she will not marry her daughter to Rhaenyra's plain-featured sons. That felt like such an insult when she said it. I was like, ooh.
Rough.
Shots fired. Lord Strong interrupts their lovers' quarrel by attempting to resign, but the king doesn't let him. Lord Strong takes leave to take Harwin back to Harrenhal to rule. Alicent vents to Larys Strong, who we learn has been keeping her informed of all the whispers. So let's pause there. I have here on the notes like Rhaenyra's ability to play the Game of Thrones. Like, when I saw this scene, it made me feel like she was making this like last ditch effort to try to like save her reputation. And it confused the hell out of me and actually made me angry because it's like, it took you how long to realize your reputation was at stake? You should have known that when that first baby popped out brown haired. And it just made me so frustrated. And again, and I hope we don't do this in every episode, but that 10 years, man, like I want to know how the Rhaenyra from 10 years ago turned into this Rhaenyra who just didn't, like the Rhaenyra from 10 years ago was like, we need to go, like send me to Daemon to go get my egg back. I'm going to go. Like she was just slightly more forward thinking and political thinking and thinking about all the potential errors that could go wrong. She even did it in this episode with the council. And she was like, no, the Blackwoods and the Blackfires hate each other. This is not over. We need to think about this a little bit more. But you can't think about your own situation? What is happening?
I mean, I think we've always kind of seen this in Rhaenyra, where it's like in certain situations, in certain regards, she does have the ability to see the entire field. But then she also has this certain...
Blood of the dragon?
I guess you could call it that, but she has this overconfidence that no one can judge me. No one can question what I'm doing. I don't care what anybody else thinks. And we saw that right when she went to go see the play. And she was like, I don't care what anybody else thinks. Like, I'm going to be queen. And Damon's like, no, you need to care. Right. Or when she's interviewing her potential suitors, she's being blatantly rude to them in front of everybody. And like, Baratheon has to look at her and be like, that was very unkind, queen. And she's just like, I don't care, whatever. Right. So she walks around with this air about her, like nobody's going to check her. And that's the height of her downfall.
Who's going to check me, boo?
Right. Clearly the whole realm, because they're talking about it, honey.
I mean, the other people we've seen with that level of arrogance, Joffrey. That's
the word I was looking for. God.
Arrogance. No, I got you. Dr. T, I got you. Joffrey Baratheon, not the Joffrey from this series. Joffrey from Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Same level of arrogance. Rhaenyra Ramsay Bolton, same level of arrogance. Like all of your, even Littlefinger to a certain extent, certain level of same level of arrogance. Like all spoiler, all people who died as they should have due to their arrogance.
Right. So to me, it's not even all the way surprising that she's still acting like this. To be honest, I wish it would be different. I wish she would have grown and would be able to look at herself a little bit more. But I can't say it all the way shocks me,
She's damn near 30 and she's still acting like this.
Yep. Like a 15-year-old, basically. Shame. Yes.
So yeah, that makes sense. The other thing I wanted to bring up here, two other things. One, Alicent and Lara Strong. Don't they feel a little bit too like chummy?
Thinking like something is going on behind the scenes.
I just think that she and I think we see this by the end of the episode, I felt like she left herself open to him. She's like left herself open to be vulnerable to him in a way that I picked up earlier in the episode before we got to the very end. The fact that he was just like in her room just eating, talking about I started without you. It was like, she's the queen.
Yeah.
When did y'all get so chummy?
Yeah, I think he's too familiar for sure. I'll say that. I'm surprised that no one else kind of questions it. Like, why are y'all such good friends? Like, what is going on here? What is this thing here that's happening? But I think she, because you got to think, right? We're 10 years later, and in episode 5, it was kind of like, well, who's on my side? And so now we're 10 years later. So she surrounded herself with Kristen Cole and Larys. And so to her, this is her crew. This is her squad. These are the people who gonna ride for her, whatever.
Alley up.
Or so she thinks, right? When we know, sure, Kristen Cole is there because he wants to be loyal to you, feels a certain way, serving you and all that stuff. But we know Larys is there to serve himself. And the fact that she can't see that a little bit better, I think she knows it, but is still leaving herself too vulnerable to him. Like, you sharing too many thoughts. This man is too familiar to be eating dinner without you. Like, that's crazy. He should not be doing that whatsoever. Like
shouldn't she be having dinner with her husband, the king? Like, that's...
That too. That's why I'm like, why is nobody questioning this? And like, you're on the council now. You know what I'm saying? And so like, the fact that you're essentially ruling, to be honest, you should be more concerned about what this man got going on.
The other thing that stood out to me by the end of the episode was that Lord Lionel Strong has 2 sons. Harwin Strong, who the princess is obviously sleeping with and has 3 babies by, and a second son, Larys Strong, who we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
In the episode, in the scene, we see him say, hey, let me take Harwin back to Harrenhal so he can rule. He's my firstborn son, yada, yada. Why were all 3 Strongs just chilling in King's Landing for 10 years? Why wasn't Larys back? Why is Larys in King's Landing is my question. Why was there no man of the house back at Harrenhal to rule in Lionel's stead as he was serving on the council and as hand? Something about that is like off to me.
That's a good question, because it's like, why would you have all of your sons in one place?
Right.
I know in the books, possible spoiler, I don't think it's really a spoiler, but spoiler if you don't want to know. But I know in the books, he is one of the king's confessors. So he basically like tortures people to get information out of them. So he's actually like working. Yeah. So he's actually working for the king employed in the books, but it doesn't feel like that here. So it makes less sense of why he would be there.
I mean, they brought some of that torturing in to the episode. Like we see a little bit of that, but
yeah.
But even being employed by the king as whatever it is, for Lord Strong to even allow that, right? Like to begin with, why would you let both of your sons, your only sons, I'm assuming, like who is watching Harrenhal? That just makes no sense.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. Like who's holding, even when Tywin was in King's Landing and Jaime was Kingsguard, Tyrion was at Castle Rock. not saying that he was ruling per se, but he
But
was at least
someone was
there.
there.
There was there was a male family member there. So in any event, I say all that to say that something about just I mean, obviously we're supposed to see that Laris is like super shady and like all that
Yeah.
stuff. He's like a villain to a certain extent. But I need more of his backstory. I need to know more of his backstory
Mm-hmm.
as a character,
I
and I
don't know
think
if
the
you're gonna get
relationship
it.
is weird.
Yeah.
Lastly, talking about Lord Strong, the hand who just tried to resign, gave me a lot of Madness of Mercy vibes.
In what way?
In the way of just like he's so honorable that he's willing to resign because he has pretty much proof that his son did something awful to disrespect the crown. And it's like, nobody asked you. Just like keep your job and relax.
I mean, I would say it gives Ned Stark vibes. I feel like Madness of Mercy would be more of like if everybody, like let's say if like Laris knew for sure and was like, I'm gonna tell everyone, I'm exposing y'all, and he's like, Laris, you run away from here, never look back, and I'll let you live. Like, you know, that kind of thing. Cause like, kind of like what Ned did when he approached Cersei, right? Which is like, I know them kids ain't yours, but I'm going to give you a chance to let your kids go. Like, to me, that's the mercy.
I mean,
I didn't see him taking Harwin away
as
as
mercy.
mercy. Yeah. I just kind of saw him as like, we're going to try and protect this secret. I don't know. I didn't read it that way.
Okay, that's
I didn't read
fair.
it in the same way.
That's fair, but there's something here about like
I get the parallel though.
making
sure.
a decision that you think is helping your family because you're trying to keep the peace, leading to your death.
Oh yeah.
So,
for sure.
spoiler: Harwin dies.
I mean, we're getting there,
we're
guys.
getting there. Let's get there. Actually,
Yeah.
so this feels like there was a lot of things happening in this episode. Obviously, that they reestablished the characters and like all that stuff. So we have two more big scenes, and then we'll wrap up. So in another birthing scene, this is the thing I want to talk about really quickly. We've gotten so much birth in this series.
Yeah.
So much of it. In another birthing scene, Lena, not Lanar, that would be interesting, finds herself in a similar position as Emma. Remember Rhaenyra's mom in the first episode? In labor, and they are unable to get the baby out. The maester or doctor, I don't know if they call them maesters over in Pentos, offers Daemon the same choice Viserys got, and Daemon doesn't answer. I don't know if he refuses. He like shakes his head a little bit, but I don't know if that was him saying no or if he was just like, I don't want to deal with this right now. But he definitely does not say yes. While they're having that conversation, Lena takes matters into her own hands and commits suicide by having her dragon, Vagar, roast her alive.
Yes.
This was the other part of the episode where I was just like, oh my gosh, you guys are so dramatic.
I mean, she wanted a dragon rider's death, and
is that how dragon riders die?
Yeah, I guess. I guess that's what we led to believe, right? Like, it's like if you could choose, yeah, I guess if you could choose, that's the way you're gonna go. So a dragon rider's death, or at least that's what it means to her. And she was like, I'm not about to stick around and either die trying to push out this baby or die by letting my husband choose whether I live, right? So she's like, screw it. I'm going to do it myself. I'm getting out of here. I didn't want to be here anyways. Oh, well, you know, so I mean, much respect to her. Like, I'm not mad at it at all. I thought it was a good choice for her, to be fair.
I agree. I think objectively, I agree. Subjectively, as someone who's lost their mother, I was just like, you could at least say bye to your girls first. But I guess if you do that, then like, how do you have the strength to like keep going? You know, like I get that, like the whole, I get that too. So,
I think she just only had enough strength to do one thing, and
that was to save your carcass.
Yeah.
What I thought was really interesting was that Daemon caught it.
Mm-hmm.
And the look on his face was of like legit like horror. Like that definitely affected him in a way that I guess adds something extra to his character. I think that he like, you know, we talked about that he probably did care about her a little bit, but it seems as if he also maybe I don't know how he's going to take this moving forward, but like she put her money where her mouth is. She's like, I'm a dragon rider. I'm doing this.
Yeah. And I mean, Vhagar did take a while too to actually burn her up. It was interesting because it was just like, oh, is there actually some hesitation here? Like, is Vhagar kind of like thinking to himself, like, why does she want me to do this? Like,
I think
I
absolutely
want to do this. Like, this is not what I'm supposed to do, you know? And so there was some hesitation there, which gave Daemon some time, which is funny to me because it's like, how does this pregnant lady slip out of a room full of people who are supposed to be focused on her? But like,
and he was right behind her.
Yeah, so he ends up catching her. And like you said, I'm curious to see how this is going to affect him moving forward. Will it change the way that he's a father? Like what's going to happen next? Is he going to be looking for a new wife? What are the next steps, you know?
Totally agree. Can't wait for that in the next episode. Hopefully we get some of that in the next episode. Okay, so finally, we see Harwin Strong saying goodbye to Jace, Luke, Joffrey, and Rhaenyra before he makes his way back to Harrenhal. Right after Harwin leaves, Jace turns to his mother and asks if Harwin is his father. Mm-hmm. And Rhaenyra doesn't say no. Instead, she reinforces that he's a Targaryen. That's all that matters.
She didn't lie.
She didn't lie. She also didn't tell the truth. Rhaenyra tells Laenor it's time for them to move to Dragonstone to get away from the rumors. She tells Laenor that he can also bring his boo with them because they're going to need as many swords as they can get. Which felt like a pun to me, even though I know she probably didn't mean it that way, but that's how it felt like to me. You know,
Carl with a Q.
Yeah. Finally, back at Harrenhal, both Lord Strong and Harwin are killed in a fire, an act of arson orchestrated by Lord Larys, who now inherits Harrenhal. Alicent realizes what Larys did and is horrified.
Sure.
You don't think she's horrified?
I don't think it's completely what she wanted, but also after 10 years, you don't know who you're talking to?
She's naive. She's not playing the game right. Clearly, because if she was, she would have been training up Aegon to be king.
Isn't fair. Because it's like, by this time, you should know who this man is and you should know what he's capable of. That taking place should not have been the biggest shock to you. You might have been like, dang, I wasn't trying to go that far, but okay. You know what I'm saying? But like, for her to be completely like horrified and everything that's happening, I'm just like, come on. You know who you talking to over here. Like, let's not do that.
I mean, yeah, I wonder if it's more so just like now she's kind of in his debt.
Absolutely.
Like the way he set it up is she's in his debt now and she's the queen and he's a shady MFer. So can't wait to see how that shakes out. This is where I'll go on a little bit of rant and I'll say that I think Rhaenyra is being stupid because I understand the idea of like getting away from the rumors, but how does she think that her narrative is going to change if she leaves with her boys to Dragonstone, have them grow up away from the eyes of everyone, for them to just come back whenever the time is right and be like, oh, we rule now?
Yeah.
Like, it feels very disconnected, and it feels like the opposite of what Marjorie was trying to teach Joffrey back in Game of Thrones, which is like, and even what Daemon said to Rhaena, just like, these are the people. They have to know you in order to like you, in order to support you. So I think them moving to Dragonstone is a very bad idea.
I don't know how I feel about it. I think because the heir of the throne is supposed to be seated at Dragonstone, period. But when Laenor and Rhaenyra talk about it, he's like, well, you wanted to be here, right? Because you know that Alicent would, you know, as he says, pour honey into your dad's ear. And so he's concerned that, like, if we leave, do we leave ourselves more vulnerable at the end of the day? And if you're leaving, is that a sign of admission to all of the rumors that are going on?
Especially if you leave right after Harwin leaves?
Right. So part of me is almost like, is this possibly her escape plan just in case? Like, all right, if they coming for us, at least we could hop on our dragons and be out and, like, you know, because we're a little bit away from King's Landing. but I don't know. I can't put my finger on whether I think it's a bad or a good idea.
I think it's a very bad idea. But we'll see how it plays out. What
Yeah.
do we think Lord Larris's motives are? Is he just an agent of chaos, or do we think he actually has like a North Star?
No, I think he has some sort of ambition. What that is, I'm not sure. Which again, the 10-year time jump. Because because from what we've seen from him previously, it's not like he's the most loving brother and son, but we don't get the feeling that he hates his family.
Mm-hmm.
So to kill your own family, your own father, your own brother, that's got to take a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering what got him to that place of feeling like I could do without him. It's fine. Like what brought him there. So I wish we had more time there to understand what their family dynamic really is behind the scenes.
Yeah, because it's like you risk someone finding out that you killed your father and your brother, and what do you get out of that? I don't like Harrenhal. Like that doesn't even feel like a prize good enough for him. He did it for more than Harrenhal, and did you do it just to have the queen under your thumb in your debt? That doesn't feel like that math doesn't math to me.
I mean, it's not a bad thing to have the queen in your pocket, but
Harrenhal, but like to risk.
Yeah, I think there's a bigger goal, but we just don't know what it is.
Don't know it yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm interested. He annoys me when he's on screen a little bit, but fine. And then finally, like the way this wraps up is like we splice, Rhaenyra and Laenor arriving on Dragonstone with the Harrenhal like sequence of like them finding their bodies. Lord Larys is like speaking over all of this, and it's also cut between Daemon and his kids like reacting to losing Laena.
Mm-hmm.
And in this episode, both Rhaenyra and Daemon lose their muses by fire. And it stood out to me as being kind of like a metaphor for like, I don't know, like a piece of like Daemon and Rhaenyra, being dragons who spit fire and having their muses consumed by fire just felt like poetry to me, which I'm dragging it a little bit. I don't know how else to explain it, but I don't know. There's something there. Somebody figure it out.
There's something like all consuming about their personalities and the way they live their lives, right? Where it's like, it's almost like everything they touch turns to crap or burns up, apparently.
Turns to fire, yeah.
So it's like, I think that's what you're kind of getting at. And I think that's a good point to make, where it's like, y'all have lived so recklessly that these things have happened. Now, Daemon doesn't seem to have been living recklessly in the last, few years and stuff, but I don't know, the sins of the past come to haunt him. Who knows? But it's definitely an interesting thing to kind of keep an eye out for. I mean, they definitely never really cared much of what happens to people around them. So.
They don't. They don't.
So.
I wonder how much of this is going to like set them off the edge, both of them.
I think they're gonna cling to each other. I think they're gonna come and cling to each other. In what kind of ways? I don't know. Will we finally get some silver-haired kids? Who knows? But people gonna be like, "Oh, Damon's in town. Oh, now we have a silver head, baby. Okay."
And Laena's gonna be like, "That's mine."
I was cracking up when Allison gave him the baby and was like, "Keep trying, so Laenor, maybe you'll get one that looks like you." I was like, "Ooh, we're saying these things out loud to people's faces."
What's also kind of wild is like Laenor could have said that back to her, because aren't all her kids blonde?
That's not it don't work that way.
I know.
You can't reverse engineer.
I know. Okay.
That's a nice try.
Anyway, I would have been like, excuse me, reverse card, back to you. Anyways. So that was the episode. Who do you think won the episode, Nessa?
Oh, definitely Larys. 100%. because we know that Rhaenyra's losing, but Larys for sure. He made his power moves. He's got the queen in his pocket at this point.
Harrenhal.
Harrenhal, the world is his oyster. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like. So yeah, who did you have?
I definitely had Laris.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, for all the same reasons. Like everyone else in the episode is losing to a certain extent something, and he gained everything. So I mean,
Absolutely.
unless you want to count him losing his brother and his dad, he doesn't. So he won.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Looking
Yikes.
forward, when we see scenes from the next episode, we see the funeral for Lena, which looks like it'll be kind of emotional. We see Damon and Rhaenyra are reunited, obviously for the funeral. And someone stole Vhagar, Lena's dragon. Otto is back in town, and there are lots of knives being pulled on people in the upcoming scene. So super exciting. I did want to ask, let's speculate a little bit. Who do you think stole Vhagar? I have a theory here.
I want to hear your theory.
My theory is that Rhaena took him.
Rhaena,
their daughter that doesn't have a dragon.
but why would she steal him?
I mean, steal is a strong word. Like, just ride him and go somewhere with him.
I feel like steal kind of implies it was someone outside the family. Outside of Damon and Lena's kids who did it.
I mean, if Vhagar's missing, then someone can interpret that as him being stolen.
Mm-hmm.
And if, Rhaena just was just like, hey, Vhagar, what's up? And he was like, all right, let's do this. And they just go flying somewhere.
Yeah.
It could still come off as him being stolen when he's not really stolen. That's my guess. The only other obvious guess to me would be Aemon, but that just feels too, far out. Almost.
I mean, he's the only one that's not a dragon rider-ish. Unless Helena has been holding out on all of us. And she strolls up and just grabs him. But I'm definitely curious to see who it is. I think those are pretty much the top choices that we could kind of suspect.
One of the kids. Can you imagine one of the kids stealing big-ass Vhagar?
It's definitely one of the kids, for sure.
Agree.
Because all the other adults have dragons or don't care to have a dragon. So I'm very sure it's one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, blood will be spilled, in the
blood will be spilled. Yeah. And hopefully also I'm hoping that we finally get to see who's on whose side for this whole Dance of the Dragons thing. We know we're building up to it. It's going to be a big civil war. I just want to see who's on whose side. My belief is that Damon and Rhaenyra will be on the same side. I think that the series was trying to set it up that they might be against each other, but I think they're going to be on the same side. And then it'll just be against Alicent and her kids.
I agree. I think that's what's going to go down. Again, guys, we did not read Fire and Blood. So, and we don't want most of the things to be spoiled for us. So we're just kind of going off of the information that we are getting currently. I personally also have very much forgotten all of the stuff that they talked about of Dance of the Dragons in the Game of Thrones series. So I'm walking into this a little blindly, and I'm okay doing that. And I'm
fine with
same. It makes it a little bit more fun. So yeah, so I mean, all the scenes I think you need to gear up for another dramatic episode, T. Because all of the scenes look like it's a lot going on. Blood is being spilled, daggers are being pulled, a dragon is missing. There's a funeral.
A lot going on.
Yeah. There's a funeral. There's even a scene where Laenor is fighting someone. I don't know. It's a lot going down, and I'm ready for all of it.
Yeah, we have 3 more episodes, 7, 8, 9, 4 more episodes. Sorry, my math is late.
It's all
whatever.
good.
My brain is completely shot. 4 more episodes, so we are on the down climb. Yeah. We are waning, I think is the word. Heading towards the season finale, and then I don't know what we're gonna do with our lives for a year and a half until they give us another season. But we'll talk about that when we get there.
See. Yes. Just really quick too, like this is House of the Dragons, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to run through real quick how many dragons we have so far, 'cause dragon count, right? So Rhaenyra has Cyrax, Daemon has Caraxes, Rhaena has Melees, I think that's how you pronounce it. Lena had Vhagar. Lenore has Sea Smoke. Aegon the second has Sunfire. Jacaerys has Vermax, and then Lucerys has Arax.
That's
So
8.
so far we've got 8 dragons that we know of and have met in the show so far.
That's kind of wild because we know how many dragons we're going to see in the first season.
How many did they say again?
9.
9? Ooh.
Yeah.
So there's still one more
Yeah.
out there.
There's one somewhere. Ooh.
Okay.
I like this. I like this.
Oh, I know who it is.
Okay.
They mentioned it already. We just haven't seen them. There's Dreamfire.
Who
And
rides Dreamfire?
Dreamfire, I have no idea. Off the top of my head, I have no idea. But that's one of the eggs that Daemon stole early on. He stole a egg from Dreamfire.
Not the egg that Rhaenyra got back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that one.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume
egg from Dreamfire.
that's not the one that they just gave to Daemon when he came.
The egg that they gave to Daemon?
Not Daemon. Aegon. I in my head I assumed it was the same egg.
I don't know, but I just know the egg came from Dreamfire. I have no idea what happened to that egg. I don't know what happened to the egg. I just know the egg came from. They probably did. Well, I get. Do you? Because Balon dies. Mm-hmm. So do you just pass the egg on to the next kid, or is that like bad luck? I don't know. Because that's the egg that Rhaenyra picked out from Balon, but then Balon dies.
And then Daemon stole it.
Daemon stole it. Rhaenyra gets it back. I don't know what happens to.
They're not going to not give out a dragon egg just because somebody died.
Fair. Because they're already rare, so I guess.
Right,
yeah.
They're rare and they all don't hatch, just like half of them don't hatch or whatever, so.
And
which
that
is
would
also
make
kind of wild.
That would make kind of sense, too, why maybe Aegon's dragon's named Sunfire. I think also the dragon's golden, but still,
It would make sense, yeah. And when I was thinking about that, too, I was like, why don't you just give me an egg? Like, just keep giving me an egg until a dragon is hatched. Why are you just, like, letting me out here with, like, no dragon just because my egg didn't hatch?
Because that's the egg that was bestowed upon you, and either you a rider or you not.
It's messed up. Anyways.
Yes. All right, guys. Well, that is a wrap on episode 7 of House
6.
Ooh, sorry. Let me not jump ahead. You right. Episode 6, House of the Dragon, the Princess and the Queen. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you guys go like, subscribe, follow, do all of the things. On Instagram, we are Casual Fangirls _ On YouTube, we are Casual Fangirls. Make sure you stay tuned in, lock in with us. We'll be putting out more and more, continuing to cover House of the Dragon. And as always, I am Nessa.
And I'm T.
And together we are the Casual Fangirls. See you guys next time.